Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Sorry, I can't hear. Yeah, now I can. Yeah, now I can.
Good evening. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Very warm welcome to Clause YouTube channel Strategic Frontlines. I'm Dr. Roshan Khanijo, and today we have with us Major General Ravi Murugan, PVSM, AVSM retired. He's a strategic expert and especially with technology, as he's an advisor to a number of companies. I welcome you, General Murugan, to this podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roshan. I really appreciate it for you inviting me for this.
Thank you so much for coming. And today we are discussing emerging disruptive technologies, which with their speed and complexities are changing the character of war and concomitantly bringing revolution in military affairs. The change is especially visible in low intensity warfare. So today we are going to take four segments of this emerging technology, that is lethal autonomous weapon systems, hypersonics, DEWs, that is direct energy weapons, quantum. So these are the four sections we are going to discuss. So I'll start with AI and autonomous system. So General Murugan, how are the lethal autonomous weapon systems and swarms of drones impacting war? Is it lowering the thresholds? Because number of countries are developing these systems. We know that US has its MQ-9 Reaper Predators. China has its loyal wingmen. It also has supersonic reconnaissance drone. And it's also becoming an expert in drone swarms. Turkey has its Baykar systems. So I would just like to show you in a slide. These are the systems to make it a little bit visually appealing. US, the Chinese, and the Turkish. So my question is, firstly, what are the advantages of this and how it has changed the military tactics and strategies?
Thank you so much, Dr. Roshan. Firstly, before I start and try and answer your question, I would like to thank you and Clause. This is the first time I'm participating in your podcast. It's a great initiative. Most information is now being gleaned through podcasts, and I think it's a need of the hour, and you're doing a great job with that. So, having said that, coming to this issue of autonomous systems. No, there is a theory. What you said first was absolutely right, in that the threshold of conflict has reduced. Why? Because there has been a democratization of airspace and use of that airspace through these autonomous systems. And especially so, leaving aside the higher end varieties, whether it be the male and which costs more, the actual democratization of this airspace has been carried out by the cheaper drones. We see that playing out on a daily basis in the Russian-Ukraine conflict. We saw that happening when Israel took action in Iran, with of course with a number of a hybrid meld of multiple systems, and the actions which are happening in the Middle East, the Houthis carrying out actions and denying sea space. So the fact is that this technology has now been so made cost effective, as also is so effective in an asymmetric format, that conventional militaries are now faced with the same weapon systems which they use, because it is now available with asymmetric players. So autonomous systems has lowered the threshold of conflict. And one of my theories in this is, in this podcast, let me voice it, that the reason why even in state versus state conflicts, I feel the threshold of conflict has been lowered because of these kind of delivery systems, is because when you look at the escalatory spectrum, you have at the highest end of the escalatory spectrum, conventional escalatory spectrum, a full-scale war. At the lowest end, you have proxy actions which are happening, which we see on our western borders. The use of these indirect standoff weapon systems without using, sending troops or platforms, ground-based platforms across a border, allows you the ability to tweak and control the escalation. Therefore, even in state actors and near peer conventional adversaries, the chosen method of we see that now playing out. The chosen method of engagement, of making an impact, of conveying a message, is standoff. And what better way of a standoff system than autonomous systems? And whether it be loiter munitions with shorter or medium ranges, whether it be short range, first person view kinetic drones, whether it be integration of surveillance come kinetic strike drones, these systems are now all across. They've become they've changed. In fact, it is in reality a disruptive technology, because it is virtually changed, it's altered, and renders the conventional systems nearly irrelevant in the present system of waging war. Because ultimately, even a the mid-spectrum use of force is also a war. And if this is going to be the preferred option, mid-spectrum is going to be the preferred option because of the message it conveys and the damage you prevent on your own side, then these systems are going to be the systems of fighting. They already are, and they will continue to be the systems in various formats, are going to be the systems of waging war, whether it be a conventional state versus an asymmetric actor, or between two near peer adversaries also. And you saw that, and you're seeing it happening in once the Ukraine-Russian conflict has virtually come to a stalemate of use of autonomous systems and standoff weapon systems. And that's exactly what Israel did, use of autonomous and standoff weapon systems and delivery platforms. That's exactly what asymmetric players are also doing. So this is the technology which has disrupted the traditional battlefield, and this is here to stay.
I fully agree with you. And I think the army is also trying to have a brigade which will look into drones and all. I think they are also planning to do something. Any thought on that?
That would be for trials. I mean, got my information is purely from open sources, but I would say that would be for trials, because the use and the scaling and the the integration of drones has to be at the lowest level.
Yes.
It can't be it can't be a system which is going to be only a purely, because it has to be used by a hybrid force. So it can't be a brigade of drones. The drone has to be used by a section in an infantry battalion. So what kind of drone, to what effect, and what kind of integration has to take place? How does that, this fusion of those effects and the fusion of, depending on the type of drone which is being employed, the fusion of the effect or the information which is happening, where is that being collated? And then what is the impact of that? That has to be a completely integrated functioning. So yes, in fact, I hear a lot of statements wherein the army hierarchy says they are viewing every soldier having a drone. I mean, that would be the other a little bit of an exaggeration, but virtually that is what is going to happen, because you see that happening everywhere, right?
Yes, I think US is one country where they are having exercises with crewed and uncrewed systems, and they are both taking together and doing the exercises. So probably Absolutely. I think we also start that. And do you feel that it also requires a little bit of strategic doctrinal shifts also?
100%. Not only strategic. I'm talking about the doctrinal shift is sine qua non. There is no doubt about that, because when you integrate these systems, which are right now, you're given a soldier the ability to see, let's say, I'm talking about, let's say, a soldier on foot, to see 5 to 10 kilometers beyond what his eyes can see. And not only to see it, he can impact it. Right? So that capability has been given to us, which that capability was not existing before. And as you go to as you go up the chain, the ability to see further and to impact what you see keeps growing. in terms of ranges and in terms of the type of impact. So there has to be a methodology of usage, because ultimately you will have to institutionalize these systems. You will have to put it within organizations. You will have to integrate their employment along with your conventional modes of war fighting. So all that will require an operational philosophy of employment, which the army traditionally calls as GSPS, General Staff, planning parameters, which is policy statements which they issue. GSPS is a General Staff policy statement which gives the parameters of employment of any system. So they will have to rethink exactly how we do this tomorrow. It can't be the same way with a completely revolution. I wouldn't say I wouldn't be wrong in saying it's a revolutionary weapon system, because it's completely revolutionized the way of fighting. So you've integrated a revolutionary weapon system, then obviously you can't keep fighting the same way as you've been fighting. So you're absolutely right. That kind of a doctrinal shift has to take place. But more importantly, that kind of a training shift has to take place, because people have to get used to how to fight. Because how do you maximize the effect of a system unless you have trained well within it to know its potentialities, its effects, and the ability to maximize its, leverage its abilities. So the training aspect is going to be extremely important here.
Absolutely. And the way AI is being used in, say, for ISR, I mean, it is going to challenge a lot of parameters, especially the deterrence also is going to challenge.
100%. See, the AI is going to be a service which is going to, it will be hardwired within the organization. It is not only in terms of autonomous systems which are flying, it is going to be your decision-making modules. It's going to be your logistic modules in terms of predictive maintenance and forward push of logistic supplies. It is going to be in HR management. It's going to be training simulations. So AI is all encompassing. You can't avoid doing that. And I'm happy to say that one of the companies, which I advise, which is Neuralix.ai, they got in fact, they are now giving a proof of concept for AI as a service in the army. So primarily in battlefield management systems, sensor data fusion, carrying out predictive assessments, so pattern recognition, change recognition. So all these are we are looking at only the operational side, but as I said, even backend there are multiple aspects which require AI, which eases and probably makes more effective the way of functioning.
So there are layers and layers of complexities which are going to come. And to add to it, another area is the hypersonics. Both, if you see the hypersonic glide vehicles as well as the hypersonic cruise missiles, because of the speed, which is more than Mach 5 and above, it is very difficult to detect. So, do you feel that it is going to create a lot of problems?
Yeah, the technologies which you identified, to my mind, the autonomous systems, of course, both passive as also active in terms of, passive in terms of ISR and active in terms of kinetic strikes. But I mean, we view it mainly from an offensive context, right? Similarly, your HGVs, the hypersonic glide vehicles, or as you said, the hypersonic cruise missiles, which are strictly not an HGV, because an hypersonic glide vehicle is unpowered. It takes, it's launched into upper atmosphere and then it's released. And then it, by sheer gravity, it takes, as you said, the speed of over Mach 5, and it's an unpredictable path. So all your, ballistic missile defense systems, which are already there, your air defense systems are already there. The ability to intercept an HGV becomes extremely difficult. So the strike by an HGV, sorry?
Yes. So no, I just want to intercept for one thing. What you're saying about the speed, you're absolutely right, because if it is Mach 5, it is very difficult with the radars also to catch it. The interception is very difficult. And it will not only create problems in the way if you have a traditional defense systems, but also it is shortening the decision-making time.
Absolutely.
So do you think we are making... the things are becoming more vulnerable?
That's absolutely right, and one, there is no fixed flight path, right? The flight path is, there is no predictable pattern. The flight path is unpredictable random patterns, and the speed. So both these create the issue, one, of detection. Second, even if you detect it, it reduces your reaction time to intercept it. And even if you try to intercept it, by virtue of its speed, you are unable to track it or lock onto for interception.
Absolutely.
So in terms of the effectiveness of the strike, if an HGV or a hypersonic cruise missile is launched, then the strike is virtually, you can't stop it. So
Absolutely. And
deterrent, sorry.
and
You were
with
saying.
the neighborhood, with the kind of neighborhood we have, it's so the proximity of both the nations,
Right.
it becomes more complicated. And it's the HCMs can also attack your critical assets, which
Right.
become more and more vulnerable. So do
Vulnerable.
you think that is redefining the deterrence also?
Absolutely, because see, deterrence is in terms of if, and first let's put deterrence in the right perspective now. Deterrence in the new perspective is, we have decided, or as I said, my theory is standoff weapons is going to be the preferred mode of war fighting, because the risks in launching standoff weapons is lesser than the risks in launching ground forces, when actually physically crossing the border, in terms of human lives, in terms of the impact, in terms of the messaging also. So if standoff weapons is going to be the preferred mode of war fighting in every kind of adversarial situation, then the use of a system, a standoff weapon system, which can't be intercepted, which can give you virtual guarantee of strike of what it hits, and it has a range which covers the entire adversary country. It gives you, and you have no system which is able to, as I said, prevent it from hitting what it wants to hit. Then it gives you a capability which contributes effectively to high deterrence. So if somebody else has it, if you don't have it, then obviously the other, the adversary has a higher deterrent value. So there is no question. These are critical technologies, because you need it, because some of your adversaries already have it, or
Yeah.
it's operationally deployed.
And how are we placed as far as these things are concerned? Because I think we had done the hypersonic, we have done the flight test of hypersonic technology demonstrated vehicle in 2020.
Correct.
So, and we also had that scramjet technology, which we are trying to master. So what is the latest in this as far as India's indigenous thing is concerned?
Yeah, so I don't have any special information on it, but what I feel is that we have a BrahMos, which is a supersonic cruise missile.
Supersonic.
Right. So that uses a ramjet. That's why, one of my, every time I would see the cost of a BrahMos, the doubt would come to my mind that the cruise missiles are generally cheaper, but BrahMos is not cheaper. The reason why it's not cheaper, because it's got a ramjet engine, because it's a supersonic missile. So similarly, we have gone in, this is a building block. So we already have the BrahMos as a platform. Now you're increasing the speed of it, and probably in terms of, the flight path it takes. So you require a scramjet engine. So the scramjet gives it the speed to compete with a typical hypersonic glide vehicle. So that the trials are still on. They call it, I think, BrahMos 2. It's a joint project again, and they call it BrahMos 2. So that is still ongoing. But to my mind, when you look at your northern adversary, you're still easily 6-2, because that was deployed, if I'm not wrong, one of their hypersonic HGVs was deployed, I think 2018 or 2017, if I'm not wrong. So your as it is about 5 years behind, 7 years behind that. So we need to accelerate these programs, so that those capabilities in some form or the other, we have that operationally.
So these are some of the
because it contributes
hypersonic
to the deterrence
vehicles.
value. Sorry.
Yes, these are some of the hypersonic vehicles which Russia, China, and USA, they are developing. The Avangard and the Kinzhal of Russia, which is known. I think they had used it in the Russia-Ukraine war also. This is the conventional.
Absolutely. But one thing I would like to highlight here is that we also need to have more information on the battlefield effectiveness, because in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, this has been used, but there have been conflicting reports on the effectiveness. So while we are process of developing, these are the inputs we need to take, credible inputs we need to take.
Absolutely.
So that, it shouldn't, it should shape our, as you said, doctrinal and operational philosophies in this. While as a system, we fully agree it has strategic deterrence value. But we have to be absolutely clear as to, once used, what was the effectiveness of its use? Was it compromised in some manner because of the defensive systems? Did it do as advertised? So there are multiple aspects which we should, and I'm sure the people who are responsible for these developments would be seeking proactively this kind of information.
I think as far as China is concerned, there were news that they have already operationalized this hypersonic. And
that's the DF-17. That was, if I think I got it, 2018 or 19 they operationalized it.
Yes, and they were saying that it might be dual use also. So it will create more problems, because if it can be conventional and nuclear, then it's I don't know how much truth is there, because with China you have to be a little.
But Dr. Roshan, that is the Chinese policy. There is a nuclear ambiguity in their delivery systems. They don't say that. There is no separation. Well, all these are dual use, delivery systems. Even the ballistic missiles are dual use. They don't tell you as to which is the one which is nuclear, which is the one which is so that is going to continue. Because the reason I say it's going to continue is because that gives them the required ambiguity. They're not looking at, let's say, their adversary towards us, but they have other adversaries also. So
actually, there is with Americans. So they are in competition with Americans. So.
That's right. So this gives the messaging to the US that it's that nuclear. Though they also propose not to use this as a first form of response. But that nuclear ambiguity itself brings in the element of doubt as to the delivery systems. So in this, and they're also, by the way, while they have operationalized, the HGV DF-17, they are also in the process of developing similar, like us, hypersonic cruise missiles.
Yes. In fact, they had done an exercise. I think last year or some, where they had tried to use the hypersonics to attack the US naval assets in the South China Sea.
That's right.
Yes. So that was. So it's a very interesting thing how this particular weapon system is going to develop, and we have a cascading effect, because if China is developing something which has the potential to impact the regional players also, then we cannot stay behind, because we cannot increase the strategic gap. So perforce, we also have to develop that. And
there is no doubt in that. There is no, that is absolutely not up for, even any, and that is why probably, we are at it in terms of trying to both. We would require actually both the cruise missile hypersonic as also the glide vehicle.
Absolutely.
The ability to use ballistic missiles to launch that, because ultimately that function comes in terms of range extensions. So if you want to extend ranges and ability to bring in more targets under its ambit, then you will have to go in for the different types of it. So in that, there is absolutely no option. We will have to develop it, and none of this is being given by anybody. You will have to do do the hard work here.
Yes, absolutely. And I think there was some news in 2024 that we had also tried to test extended trajectory of long duration HCM, which had a speed of Mach 8 and a range of 1,500 kilometers. So I don't know, but there was a news about it somewhere.
Okay. So, I'm sure that would be on. I'm sure that would be on, because we know that these are critical systems and we need to have that. And we, even the recent conflict on our western borders also drove home the point that effective standoff weapon systems, are weapons of choice now. So you will have to, have the entire array of inventory.
So in your view, what do you think hypersonics, what are they? They are a revolution or just an evolution?
Now, I would see these are all information age weapon systems. I would like to go a little broader on this. These are all information age weapon systems, not purely because ultimately This is a hardware, right? The hypersonic missile itself is a hardware, but the effectiveness of the hypersonic missile is being value added on, in fact, made effective by the information age technologies. The precision of it, the ability to simulate it using compute power and digitization. So all these are all functions of the information age. So I can't really say revolutionary for the simple reason that ballistic
Yes.
missiles have been existing forever.
Existing
But
for it. Yes.
yeah, but the ability to make the strike, optimize the strike of the system or this delivery system has been value added by information age technologies, and that would be in everything. So ultimately, it's technology. We look at evolutionary or revolutionary, but while being evolutionary, it has an impact which can in this case may not be autonomous systems 100%. It's a revolutionary system because existing systems are being rendered obsolete because of use of those autonomous systems.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and AI I would still say is revolutionary because again it is your entire conventional OODA loop is completely being shortened because of artificial intelligence. You are
Yes.
seeing further and you're seeing better. You are able to make sense of it far faster. You're coming to a decision far faster, and you are responding to it at a near immediate time frame, all being done mostly autonomously, with a human in a loop just giving the decision for carrying out that action. So it actually becomes revolutionary in the speed cycle of it. So yeah, but this one I will be on the fence on it. I would say that it is high evolutionary.
No, I understand what you're saying. And as far as autonomous systems are concerned, the lethal autonomous weapon system, there's a lot of debate on it, and especially as far as the ethical angle is concerned. So
Right.
that angle is also there because you cannot have totally automated things. You need to have a human angle in that.
In the loop.
So
Yeah.
your views on that?
Yeah. So there are UN, there is a UN discussion going on. I mean, for years now, it's been going on in terms of the ethical use of autonomous systems. And in fact, we participate in it also. And we need to participate in it because framing of laws, you can't leave it to somebody else. You should be part of framing of these policies and laws. So
Absolutely.
yes, everybody agrees that there should be a human in the loop at some stage. Right,
Yes.
because otherwise if something goes wrong and there is, let's say, collateral damage in terms of not collateral, let's say wrong targeting happening, so who are you going to hold responsible for this?
Absolutely.
So and then how do you prevent it is to have a human in the loop. So yes, there is a lot of debate going on, but there are a number of contrary views to that also. So but that's a subject for
So different. This thing.
an ethical and
So
legal.
yes, like hypersonic, and the another area which we wanted to discuss is direct energy weapon.
Yeah.
So which uses energy to damage the targets, whether it is high energy laser or high power microwave. And US is the leader as it has what you call it high energy laser with integrated optical dazzler, which is known
Right.
as EDTs, and it also has the DEM SHROT, that is direct energy maneuver short range air defense system. As also they have SHIELD and Thor, tactical high power microwave operational responders. China is not way behind. They also have the high energy lasers, silent hunters for drones. So my question is, how are they used, and what is
Right.
the lethality? Are they
Right.
silently changing the, especially the space and electronic warfare? And if so, how?
Right. So, in terms of, these are primarily kinetic weapon systems, right? Instead of using bullets, they are using energy for carrying out the necessary impact at the target end. Right now, the entire focus has been as defensive weapon systems, right? They use highly focused energy and they destroy or damage targets at the speed of light. That's the long and short of the directed energy weapon systems. And they can be used on land, sea, air, space. It can be satellite mounted. So, in terms of usage, operational usage, The first one, we saw that there is a revolutionary weapon system in the battlefield now, which are autonomous systems, drones, which we so euphemistically call it. Now, we have seen the difficulty in defending against drones, especially when saturation takes place, especially when numbers go up, especially when they start talking to each other and they're able to maneuver using AI, which become totally, the level of autonomy goes up completely. Then your use of your traditional weapon systems are ineffective in stopping these. So there, your high energy weapon systems become extremely potent. So they can burn through airframes, sensors of hostile UAVs, drone swarms, and cheaply. The point here is that it is the cost per shot is the fraction of a missile. Number of missiles which are fired to deal with a threat of a drone, maybe X times the cost of a drone itself. Whereas these are your ability to target, and especially for swarms and all, the laser systems are going to be extremely effective. Even missile defense. So, missile interception, which is going to happen, which is part of your defensive scheme and layering. So the use of high energy weapon systems, especially for short to medium ranges, is extremely critical and useful. So from the battlefield, in terms of defensive layering of your positions, vulnerable areas, points, against drones, against missiles, against aircrafts, even anti-satellite, naval close-in weapon systems. That's why the US Navy actually has been trying this out for quite some time. And the whole issue is of the range and the impact it has at the target end. So for a higher range or a longer range, you require a higher capacity laser. So the one which you talked about, the Chinese, if I'm not wrong, is a 30 kilowatt laser.
30 kilowatt, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's and they are now experimenting on 100 kW.
Yes,
laser.
absolutely.
So if ours, I think we have a 10 kW one, but I think we are trying to now increase the power and the range. And of course, low power lasers can blind sensors. It's which you yourself said, in combination with low power lasers, which dazzle or blind optics. That's a system. So your point is that these are required systems again, and they are required for multiple reasons, and purely as defensive systems, their effectiveness, the economy of use of it is cannot be beaten by your traditional systems. So the faster we are able to operationalize these, obviously it's going to be of value.
So how are we placed as far as DEW are concerned? Because I think DRDO's one department, which is high energy system and sciences, that is CHESS, they call it, they are looking after it. And I think you rightly pointed, they have tested laser based DEW MK28 with 30 kilowatts.
Oh, they've tested that? Okay, but they got a program, if I'm not wrong,
system, they were trying to neutralize the drones and all.
Right, but they've got a program running, Durga 2, if I'm not wrong, which is aiming for a 100 kilowatt class program. Of course, the low power dazzlers, which they call it, is already deployed. Those are already deployed, but there is no complexity in that. The thing is that you require a higher powered one, so at range you are able to have an effective impact at the target end. So that is something, I think the program which they call it is, if I'm not wrong, is a DUR. It's an acronym, and it's aiming for a 100 kW class laser. So I'm not too sure about their microwave.
I see.
So that high power microwave systems, I'm not too sure about that, because there is not much in the open source or in the media about this. But I'm sure they would be also, because the effectiveness of these, of frying the sensors on these platforms is again it's complementary to what the lasers do. So I think I'm sure this would be happening, but I don't have much information. I'm sorry.
And I think it could be used in space also.
Yes,
so
even as an anti-satellite weapon.
Anti-satellite weapon, precisely. So that is going to create more problems, because all of your navigation and other things are based on space.
Yeah.
And space is a force multiplier. So if you are going to use those there, it is going to create problem, and you have to be at it that the strategic gap doesn't increase.
Right, because and in this you should have equivalent capability. Only that leads to
Yes.
deterrence. So without equivalent capability, deterrence, of course, is now a matter of perception.
Another area which is coming up is the quantum, where progress has taken place quite fast, and in this domain, China is the leader.
Yeah.
And they have made the Tinean 504 quantum computer, and they have the quantum communication network, which goes to 12,000 kilometers. That they had a micro satellite, and also 2025 there were news that some Jinan 1, which
Yeah.
is a collaboration with them and South Korea, South Africa, I think.
Yeah.
So it's the first intercontinental quantum satellite. So I don't know how whether the information is true or not, but the news were there. So the areas with quantum is generally to do with sensors, quantum radio frequency, quantum cryptography, that is QKD. So how this is going to impact the warfare? Are the encryptions going to become vulnerable? And with the systems like quantum gyrometers and magnetometers coming up, and the imaging and radars increasing in their sophistication. So in future, how do you feel it is going to impact the warfare?
Right. See, the first thing is that quantum use of quantum technology is something which I myself find it difficult to understand, because it is a particle existing simultaneously in two states. However, the military use of it is primarily in three brackets when you look at it. One is quantum computing. No. Second is quantum communication.
Yes.
And the third is quantum sensing. So quantum is primarily militarily, we put it in these three brackets. So in quantum computing, what it does is it breaks classical encryption. That means there is no network which is secure. You can break any network because of the computing power. And by quantum technology is supposedly, while based on information technology, is the next step. So while we're talking about information age today, when quantum technology becomes widespread in its use, we are going to go into the quantum age. So it is the next level of information and the ability to deal with information. So as I said, quantum computing would be it breaks classical encryption, it accelerates optimization, logistics, mission planning. Your process power itself becomes that much more. Your compute power becomes that much more. Quantum communication is secure, tamper-proof communications, which is completely immune to interception. Which is what that satellite, Mischievous, or which is 2016, which I think to Poland or somewhere they communicated. It achieved some 2,000 kilometers, and then you said the other one, which is Jinan, I think, which has been launched again. Sorry.
Yes.
So both these are demonstrative of the fact that quantum communication. Now, quantum sensing is going to be, what it does is it's navigation without GPS. It is inertial navigation through using quantum technology, wherein you're not reliant on GPS. Therefore, your systems cannot be jammed. So it's extremely, and in terms of detection, it's extremely sensitive in detecting submarines and stealth aircraft. So it can, below the water as also stealth aircraft. So you're able to make that visible. So all the stealth technology, which is currently which provides you a combat edge in terms of many of the first world countries which have these stealth technologies. So that becomes neutralized. So if you possess this and you can see a stealth platform while your stealth platform remains hidden, obviously it gives you a clear combat edge, in this.
Absolutely.
So the Chinese, as you said, are the leaders in this, but the US also. In fact, in operationalization, the US probably is ahead than the Chinese in terms of R&D and in terms of development in a larger base of development. The Chinese are better, but military operationalization, from what I read, the US is probably a little ahead of the Chinese also in this. Now, ours you're aware of.
Huh.
We have this national mission on quantum technologies and
Quantum, yes.
applications, 8,000 crore funding. Then the ISRO itself is developing a quantum communication satellite. We carried
Yes.
out this QKD, which you were talking about, experiment over
Yes.
300 meters, and I think this was
Yes.
22 or 21. I'm not too sure.
Yes.
So the quantum research in in our country is primarily academic.
Yes.
So there is a slower translation into effective operational defense systems. So that is something which we will have to accelerate because they are moving very fast.
Yes.
They are
And
moving very fast.
I think what we have done is we have tried to rope in IITs. So the four
That's right.
IITs have
Because
been given four sections of the
section,
quantum national mission plan, whatever we have.
right.
So that I think is a positive sign because then it will help. And also I think private sector is also getting involved in it, because I think the supercomputer superconducting quantum which was created, I think, which had very that 25 qubit was done by a private
Private
sector,
company.
I think.
Oh.
So that's good. What are your views on that?
So, the thing is that we have to see what advantages we have. We have a strong mathematical and theoretical research base, right? So
Yes.
tapping the IITs in this is
Yes.
absolutely it's obvious. We need to tap that
Yes.
because we have large numbers who are groomed in this. But our disadvantage is we are weak in large scale quantum hardware.
Yeah.
That is one of our biggest weaknesses because we don't. Whereas quantum computers itself, there are already are in trial in China. So in numbers. So these are something which we are weak in. Now, getting private industry, ultimately, information technology and beyond has to be an integrated private-public partnership. Without
Absolutely.
tapping the capabilities and the abilities which the private sector has, and the agility which a private sector has, you cannot really go ahead in this. So that there is no option but for you to, and it's not only in these information. See, the earlier when we talk about the industrial age systems, a lot of it was driven by government, right? Because the government would put in, if I'm not wrong, I think in the early 20th century and mid 20th century, the US would put in I think in R&D itself, some $200 billion per year.
Yes.
The government would put in. But in today's technologies, when in the information age, a lot of these technologies are fungible. That is, they are dual use technologies. So there is
Absolutely.
reason for private sector to get into this without it being purely for defense, because it makes commercial sense also.
Yes.
So unless we bring both of that together, the strength of the private sector and of course the funding power of the government in this, and unless it gets fully integrated, you cannot leverage our advantages and you cannot leverage the capabilities and the abilities of the private sector in fungible information age technologies.
I fully agree with you because the Chinese model has been a success. It's only because of their successful civil military fusion. The
Absolutely.
dual use technology, what the civilian sector was developing, it was taken by the military and used it. So that is a very potent mechanism. So I think
Yeah.
we also, what you rightly pointed out, civil military fusion is one area where we need to really work hard. And another thing I think we need to do a lot as far as spending money for R&D is concerned. I
Exactly.
think the
R&D
R&D,
budget
the
is
percentage
extremely.
of money is very less. Your views
Yeah, but
on that?
the thing in this is, again, as I said, I advise one of the companies which is now, the thing is, a lot of times, government views funding as to what are the tangibles, right? You're getting after you put in the money. In many of these technologies, the tangibles will only be information. It is not going to be a product. It is just an information which you gain by that failed activity, and you build on that failed activity and try to get a successful one subsequently. For most governments, this is difficult to wrap their head around, for the simple reason that it appears to be wasted money. And how do I know that you actually gained or not? These questions come to my. So there is extremely there is suspicious scrutiny in terms of spendings in this. And when I talk about the academic aspect of it and our strength in mathematical and theoretical research, I must say one thing. I was a defense attaché in the US from 2016 to 2019. And twice I've gone to attend the graduation of one of the other service attachés' children in college. And in both these occasions, the bulk of the graduates passing out from the colleges, then I'm talking about when the two occasions when I went in between 2016 and 19, were mainly Chinese students, right?
Yes.
And now here is the catch in it. 99 or I don't know, 100% of these Chinese students were going back to China because the government was
Absolutely.
incentivizing their move back, putting them in positions, paying them well enough, and creating a facilitative environment for them to
Absolutely.
function and bring in the competence which would have gained there in terms of theoretical advantages. In
Yes.
our case, most who go
It's
there,
a
nobody
brain
comes
drain.
back. Yeah, and
Yes.
I don't, of course, a lot of people say they should be motivated to come back, but a person has to be incentivized to come back,
Absolutely.
right? And I'm not talking about money itself. I'm talking about creating environments which facilitate these activities. I would want to
Yes.
come back if I know that I will not be drawn into unnecessary friction of trying to justify everything which I'm doing and then
Yes.
having to keep asking for the next tranche of payment,
Yes.
right? For me to continue this.
Absolutely.
Unless those
Absolutely.
things are
The
sorted out.
environment has to be enabler so that
Absolutely.
people can come back.
Yeah.
And not only the environment, but also the pay packages. Because
Yeah.
until you have a good pay package, they won't like to come back.
But one thing I must tell you, a lot of them are not even driven by the numbers in the pay package. A lot of them, even if you give them something which is competitive, I mean, I'm not saying that it has to be very high end. As long as you create conditions of work which
Yes.
values their work and does
Yes.
not pose hurdles in them doing what they are doing. A lot of time, the conditionalities and the environment of work decides whether I come back. A lot of them come back and they get frustrated and they go back.
Go back.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because so those things, and that how much can the government now, those are the, suppose if I'm going to be working with the PSU, then it's the job of the PSU to ensure that the environment is extremely proper. Now if I'm going to be bidding for a project in under the DIO, Defense Innovation Organization, then it is the job of the DIO to whatever due diligence they're carrying out, they do it back end, but they don't bring it front end in delaying things, which is what happens in most of our, everything gets delayed. It goes on to 7 months, 1 year, 2 years, at the garb of, okay, give justification for this, give justification for 4 more things. So that is not what you do. Your due diligence. There's nobody saying you shouldn't be doing due diligence because you're committing money, but do the due diligence back end.
Yes.
Don't do it in terms of holding back.
Yes, the bureaucratic processes needs to be
that is extremely
streamlined. It's very important.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that in scientific experiments, there will be failures also.
Absolutely.
You cannot have
you grow only
one
through failures.
experiment and it will be a success. It's not possible. So you have to be at it. So you can't. And the other thing, what I think a lot of private sector, they need to, they are sensitive about is the scale and the funding.
That is, so now that's another point.
Funding is there, so I think. But the things.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example in this. Let's say I'm a startup. Let's say I bid for AI in the military or whatever I bid for. In terms of one of the DIO projects under the IDEX or the Aditi schemes, I get the project, right? The government puts in whatever is the money as per that project. Could be 5 crores, 10 crores. Now the rule in this is that the startup has to bring in equal amount of funding. That is the policy.
Yes.
So let's say the government gives me 10 crores. I have to bring in 10 crores. How do I bring in 10 crores? I go to investors and ask them to invest 10 crores. Now, when the investor invests 10 crores, he says, what is the future? Is it for only this project? I want visibility in what is going to happen subsequently. So there should be some MOQ, minimum order quantity, which says that, yes, if I find that the project which you have got and the product which you have been allotted, I mean, you're going to develop, if that meets all our criteria, and the criteria is laid down in the contract, if it meets all our criteria, then the minimum order quantity which we can give you is this much, worth this much. Now we can go with that and seek funding.
Absolutely.
that my MOQ is going to be this much, so please invest in this. Otherwise, where does he get the money from to do it?
Absolutely.
So a lot of these things have to be thought through fully, and we need to facilitate rather than create.
And I think yes, and I think here the role of big corporate sector also needs to be taken into consideration. They also need to spend something on R&D and other things, because their responsibility is also equally important.
I fully agree, Dr. Roshan. While this may not, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, yeah, please.
No, while this may not be the subject of your, this podcast or this YouTube channel, it is exactly like you have so many, housing is in a boom in India. You have so many construction companies. Name one construction company which has an institute which trains trades people, an electrician, a plumber, a mason. If I'm making project after project after project, I'm having casual, person who's not been trained in carrying out that activity. So obviously, the slopes of my bathrooms are going to be away from the, wherever is the drain, or my plumbing is going to be having problems. So their job should be, they need to train them, and then there should be a stipulation that they use them in their projects for 5 years. Then that is when they will train them properly and give them hands-on experience. That is the same thing in corporate and technology. Yes. Right? The corporate has to put in that money. If I'm in a field of making aeroplanes, then I should put in the money in R&D for making aeroplanes in that, because I can't keep waiting for an order to come first and then put in the money. So it's a chicken and egg situation. Yeah.
Actually, you're right. It can't be just assembly line. It has to be the manufacturing, which is important if we want to become a major part. And a lot of things have changed, but I mean, the progress needs to be a little faster considering.
My theory in this is, in industrial age technologies, the first mover advantage the Western powers had was far higher, right? Because the steam engine was made there first, and subsequently they had a lot of time and the human resource ability to develop industrial age technologies much faster and so much more refined. So to make a jet engine, we are finding it so difficult, whereas they did it much earlier because they had the first mover advantage in that. However, in the information age technologies, we are not lagging too far behind. Yes. Because we were nearly equal in terms of the start we have got. Yes. So at least I fully understand industrial age technologies, we are playing catch up, and we'll continue to play catch up, because nobody's sharing that. You will have to again build it, right? But in information age technologies, at least, we should not be that badly disadvantaged, is my view. There at least we should be as competitive or nearly as competitive as the others.
No, what you're saying is right. In certain sectors, we are doing very well. Whether it is missiles, if we see, we have done exceptionally well. Space is another area where we are doing exceptionally well. So I think we'll slowly and steadily, we will move ahead. So, Jal Murugan, if you allow me, then I'll take few questions.
Yeah, sure, please.
This we were discussing, it's the same. Aishwarya is asking, what role does the private sector play in India's disruptive technology, and how can we give impetus to indigenous technology in this category?
In two simple words, it would be that you have to fund it, right? Yes. Of course, there are two things to it. I must say this. There are two things to it. One is that you will have to go back to your education system also. Our education system has to be a problem-solving system. Right now, it is not a problem-solving system. Of course, we are now making, with the new NEP coming in, critical thinking becoming a focal point in this, the Tinker Labs and all that. But the execution of it is what is important. Are schools actually teaching it like that? Are children actually, because curiosity and the ability to work on that curiosity is a life-changing habit. And that is what leads to innovation and discoveries like this. So I would start from human resource, but to answer her question, long and short of it, that you would need to fund it and ask them to put in equal amount, because the gains are obviously commercial and the gains are operational and strategic also. Both things are there.
Yes.
So the commercial is not going to be in terms of the width of the market. So the government will have to step in and making it commercially viable. Once that technology is developed and subsequently gets operationalized, they will have to ensure that no corporate suffers a loss because of that. And in case it is the proliferation is allowed, then obviously if your technology is good enough, it will find the market.
I think what you pointed out about the education system, that is very important, because the more research scholars in the domain of science, mathematics, those we have,
Absolutely.
the better we'll be in innovation and other things. Because
But
we
the
find
scholars,
there is a vote towards computers and software, but it has to be holistic in other areas also. We need to give
absolutely,
what you call it, impetus. Until we have large amount of PhD students and in science specifically and
absolutely.
mathematics, what you rightly pointed out, how are you going to improve?
One. And second is that here they need to, again, the problem solving approach has to come in. It can't be, something which is being memorized and, which everybody rote learning. I don't want to say, but I'm saying, that this is going to be asked from me and I will give this answer. It shouldn't be like that. I keep saying this in one more podcast. I said this when I was posted as defense attaché in the US. My daughter was in grade 3. One day she came back with a math problem, and it was written in that math problem: TWO plus TWO gives you FOUR. If each alphabet represents a unique number from 0 to 9, find all possible combinations. That's a grade 3 child. So it took me one day by trial and error to find out, at least some combinations, by using those laws, by elimination, by logic, right? You have to use all. So next day I went to the math teacher. I said that, this is no question to give. He says, we don't want her to answer it. At least she goes through the process of elimination. He said the exact same things. She goes through the process of elimination. She goes through the process of logical rules which govern it, right? So we are trying to train her to think like that. So that is extremely important. Only then does it lead to problem solving.
Absolutely. You pointed out a very pertinent thing is logical analysis of anything. And it has to be developed from younger generation. When you are in school, the logic has to be taught to them.
And questioning,
to analyze. Yes.
Yeah, you ask a question, and even now, I don't know whether it's changed or not, but I see a number of schools because my daughter's still in grade 11 here. So I see a number of schools. And even now, we need to train the teachers first. We can keep saying what we want to, and we want both, we want women and men both coming into science. And the only way it happens is if they are motivated enough to come into science.
Absolutely. There's another question from Alia M. What are the barriers in hypersonics? Are they reliable and cost effective? And if not, how can that be achieved? So,
see, in hypersonics, as I said, you have an hypersonic glide vehicle, which is launched through the carrier, which could be a ballistic missile. And then it uses the upper atmosphere and uses information age technologies to the path patterns which it traces out, and it goes and hits the target. So to my mind, if you ask me from our perspective, I would say that we already have most of these technologies already existing, right? It's a question of melding it. And the question of the terminal end, to ensure that becomes the reliability factor being built in. So I do not know as to how, what would be the barriers to this. The barrier to this, to my mind, is the human resource, the people working on it. As long as you have people who have got that, as I said, the problem-solving attitude of bringing it. Here I want to bring in an example. Like now, FPVs, it's technology finally, isn't it? Whether it be hypersonics, whether it be FPVs, whether it be loiter. In Ukraine, every week there is an innovation. Why?
Yes.
It's a
Absolutely.
battlefield innovation. So if it is being jammed, you have got now the OFC guided FPVs. Now OFP guided FPVs are also getting entangled, or there are issues in its usage. So now you are having inertial terrain contour mapping, which is happening on that, which is not a new technology, but it is now being miniaturized in terms of its usage. So the FPV pilot is getting targeted. So now you're bouncing it off to through antennas which are placed 5 kilometers away, so that his location remains protected. So these kind of problem solving innovations are happening in technology from the lowest end to the higher end. So whatever be the problem, you require a human resource which can problem solve it, number one. And number two, an environment which allows them to fail, as you said, which allows them to fail and grow. But there has to be a time stipulation. It can't be open-ended that we can keep doing something and there is no progress. Then you obviously have to try alternate means.
I think there is a maximum necessity is the mother of invention. That is precisely what is happening. Ukraine-Russia war, where Ukrainians are trying to innovate new ways to counter them. The one last question we'll take. This is from Anil, and he says, "How does disruptive technology affect maritime warfare? How does it influence the situation in zones like South China Sea?"
No, everywhere it is relevant. It's not a medium. It is not medium specific, right? It is not through water or air or ground or space. These technologies are relevant and prevalent irrespective of the medium. So if HGV, which you said DF-17 is to target aircraft carriers. So, and if you have an intercept system which can, uses lasers and, directed energy weapon systems, so that can be mounted on, in fact, it is mounted on the US one is mounted on ships. They have the Aegis class destroyers, which I think mount a number of these systems, and they protect their, key assets of aircraft carriers. So in any of these disruptive technologies is not domain restricted.
Yes.
It's seamless and migratory. So I would say that if it is applicable on ground, it's applicable on. So now South China Sea specifically, you can dominate South China Seas. If you have an advantage in disruptive technologies, you can dominate the South China Sea, exactly as you can dominate a ground, an area of ground.
Yes, and China already has an advantage in first island change. I think they can easily control the first island change because of these disruptive technologies. And the first disruptive technology is the drones. So they will start with drones, then with hypersonics, and then with the more conventional, larger missile systems. And then finally, if nothing happens, then they'll go to the nuclear. So there is a graded system how they're going to use it. And as we were talking about lethal autonomous weapon system, underwater drones, Chinese are making one of the largest extra large UUVs. So,
absolutely. And you have even USVs, unmanned surface vehicles. They use maritime militia now. They needn't use maritime militia. They can use USVs in same kind of saturation which happens. But I mean, how they use it, I mean, there are so many innovative ways of use, and ultimately it's going to come to a risk-benefit calculus and so many other factors which come in. So I would not even like to venture a guess as to, but when integrated into your doctrinal warfighting philosophies, disruptive technologies have got it provides you a battle winning advantage. If you have that advantage others don't have, then you have a battle winning advantage.
There's no absolutely doubt. It is there because your deterrence is totally shattered if you don't have that. And you're exposing your vulnerabilities to them, and which no country would like to do. So, General Murugan, thank you so much for today's podcast. And you took such important questions and important topics. I mean, it's not easy to talk about it. And I would really like to thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on it, I must confess.
No, but
I'm only looking at the impact of it. So the impact of it, there is no denying it. You're seeing it everywhere. And as I said, this is the preferred option. It appears to be the preferred option, both within state adversaries and non-state adversaries. So then you have no option but to be ahead of the curve in this.
Actually, what is important is the impact. Because the data you will get everyone, but you require someone to explain what is the impact going to be. And you really nicely explained it to us. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the...
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.